Okay. Yeah. Where was I? Right. There are people who benefit from making it look like it's all your fault and that you're the weird one and that everything is in your own head and your own fault. And it's not. I say that as a person who suffers from chronic depression. Okay? You are allowed to be sad. Sadness tells others when you need help. This is especially important in places like, oh, I don't know, developed countries where needing help is seen as a moral failure. How dare you need help? You must be stupid, or lazy, or just not want to try. I've heard that before, and frankly, I'm sick of it. Okay? And the inverse of this, which I'm sure a lot of people don't want to hear, and I can't believe that there's somebody on YouTube that I actually agree with on this point. Being happy 24/7 while possible is not healthy. Constantly being in this state where you can ignore everything about what's going on around you, not great. It's not great because you suffer from tunnel vision. Okay? You see other people having problems, doesn't matter to you. You're already happy. People treat you like crap, but hey, you're happy enough. Why bother? Terrible people are using excuses to do terrible things to others for profit. You're too happy to notice or care. And that's exactly where they want you to be. Now, I would like to temper my argument a bit by saying I'm not a conspiracy theorist. You know, not everybody is out to get you. 90% of the time, there is no boogeyman over your shoulders waiting to snatch you up. Threats exist, threats are real. You have all due right to all due caution. But not everyone's out to get you. I say that as a person who has extreme bouts of paranoia as well. You think you're crazy. You haven't met me yet. Or maybe you have, and now you realize how crazy you actually are. I don't know. It's a possibility. So, we've had the discussion about, you know, emotions aren't bad things. It's okay to feel. It's okay to want things. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to be happy. It's okay to want to be happy. Sometimes problems are bigger than you. There's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes you need help. And there's nothing wrong with asking for it. So, yes, this pertains to me because I always get so many people who will constantly message me like, "Oh, you're such a downer. Can't you stop being negative?" Well, frankly, no. And it's like, first of all, are you using the appropriate definition of negative? Okay? I suffer from chronic depression. I am generally a little sad all the time. Here lately, I've actually been really snappy. Interactions with people online who don't deserve it, interactions with friends and family, they don't deserve it. And it's like, well, what are the emotions you're feeling? Anger, yes. Sadness, yes. Why are you feeling sad? Because you need help from other people and you're not getting it. Granted, how much help, what kind of help, can be very difficult to say. What's good for one person is not good for another person. What one person needs might be far more extreme than the next person, and on and on and on. Anger. If you're angry, you feel like you might not be treated fairly. You feel as though something is wrong and it needs to be fixed. And continuing anger might mean that the situation you think needs to be fixed isn't getting fixed. Now, of course, there's a lot to be angry about. If not in your personal life, in the world in general. Well, you can't really fix the world's problems. Most of the time, you probably can't even fix your own, right? So that's out. I'm losing my train of thought, and it's horrifying because, every time you start one of these projects, you get into it, and you say this one thing, and it leaves like it only takes a drop out of the ocean of things that you want to talk about and express to people. And of course, you can't write all of these thoughts down because you're so easily distracted that by the time you have thought of all of this, you have so many other thoughts rattling around in your head, you can't focus on one long enough to actually explain it. Well, at least that's what it's like in my head. You know, I have trouble organizing my thoughts. I have a bad case of ooh shiny and what's that? Squirrel! uh, so, what am I angry about? Well, a lot of things going on in the world. And yes, to an extent, I probably should just give up. You know, there's not much one person can do about things that are going on in the world. Have you ever belonged to a club or gone to a place and safety has been a primary concern? Well, let's just say I'm a member of one such club, let's say. And let's be honest, there are plenty of people who will hurt you for the sake of hurting you. There are plenty of people who will use you and abuse you for the sake of doing so, or their own profit, or whatever. You know, that is the way our world works. Sadly. And the best you can do is be safe. The best you can do is behave correctly and act accordingly. After all of the talk I have had about safety for oneself, regardless of who they are or what they do, safety is a primary concern for a lot of people all the time, which is fair. But when someone new comes into your club, let's call it a fandom, right? You know how fandoms work. There are the people who have been in the fandom for years and have said, "Oh, this is how things work around here." And like, you know how you don't want to gatekeep your fandom because, you know, you like doing this thing. You like this thing being around, but at the same time, you know there are plenty of kinds of people who you really don't want in your fandom. Okay? On one hand, you have the conundrum of, well, the fandom should be for anybody. Which, you know, if it's a good and positive thing that does good for people, then you want to spread as much good as you can. But at the same time, there are those that will take advantage of your fandom in order to hurt people. And oftentimes, people will come into your fandom from one simple experience. You'll be sitting there in your preferred hangout spot and be debating the deep philosophical issues of the right versus wrong of the book you just read. And then somebody rolls up and says, "Hey, I like this book too." Well, why do you like this book? Because the cover's shiny. And it's like they read some of the book and they like it and they think it's cool, but they don't know enough about the book in order to engage in that higher level thought. And of course, it's not fair to call them, you know, fake. Everyone has to start somewhere. Everyone has their own point of view. But in a place as vast as a fandom, where bad things happen all the time because bad people slip through the cracks, safety can be a concern. And it's like, not just safety for this new person, safety in case this new person isn't who or what they said they were in the first place. And it's like, new people need to be safe. Old people need to be safe. People who just like the thing because it's shiny need to be safe. People who like the thing for other reasons need to be safe. So you go out and warn this person who likes the shiny book and say, "Hey, we're glad you're here, but you might want to be careful about talking like that. Because there are people out here who will use that against you." And it's like, of course they don't know. Well, maybe they know. Maybe they don't fully understand. But you do the right thing and you tell them, first of all, this is how you communicate your interest. Because that way it doesn't sound like you're a bad person trying to do bad things. This is how you talk about these topics. And it's like, you're not trying to be a gatekeeper. You're not trying to be a snob. You're not trying to tell people how they do things. You just want everyone to be safe and happy and enjoy the fandom. Pardon me while I pollute the environment ever so slightly. And then this person goes around and says that you're a bad person because you dared try to educate them about how things work in the fandom. Long story short, too late. That is exactly what happened to me. And I am suffering the repercussions even now. Like, trying to do the right thing and then have people lambast you for doing it is painful. Am I sad? Yes. Is it fair to be sad about that? If you ask me, it is. Is it fair to be upset about that? Yes. If you ask me, of course. Only trying to help, only trying to do the right thing. This person has the audacity, the gall to tell you you don't know how things work. It's it's a thing, all right. And unfortunately, as you may know, I don't have a lot of friends. I don't have a lot of places I go to talk to people. Sure, I'll hang out at a server. I might pop up in a Discord or whatnot. But I'm not really a social person. You see, I don't talk to people. Talking is not my strong suit. As amazing as it sounds, I do just enjoy putting my opinion out there and hearing the tone, the sound and tone of my own voice. Well, not really. I think my voice sounds annoying as all hell. But like actually trying to talk to people, actually trying to participate in the group is difficult for me. And the idea that I'm going to face so much punishment for trying to do the right thing, it it's really got me upset. And of course, because I'm angry, I've lashed out in attempts to fix things. But of course, the people I'm lashing out at don't know what's going on. They don't care what's going on, and they don't deserve to be lashed out at. Of course, I can apologize and say I'm in a bad mood all I want, but that's not going to fix anything, now is it? So there's that. The second thing is, well, I'm just not in a very good place right now. After I came back from Alaska, things things didn't take a very good turn. And I have some very good people who are doing their best to help me, but they can't do everything for me. And with my bouts of depression and paranoia and everything else swirling about because I'm not in a good place, I come off as ungrateful and uncooperative. And of course, I need help. Of course, I want help. I'm more than a bit prideful, of course I am. But it's just been such a struggle lately to motivate myself, to actually try to fix things myself. Like, every single time I try to gather up the strength, something happens and everything gets worse. You know, kind of like that just now. I wake up one day and I tell myself, this is the day I'm gonna do this. It's a small step, but it's the best thing. It's a small thing, but it's the right thing. I do this. This is the beginning of everything else. And that, on top of this, on top of that, will solve my problem. But then one thing goes wrong. And then another thing goes wrong. And then another. And another. And it's just got to be so darn hard. It's got to take so darn long. You can't just wish and things will magically fix themselves, unfortunately. I really wish my issues were already done with. I really wish that I didn't have to do these things, that I didn't have to go through these things. But we all do, whether we want to admit it or not. And I have people who help me. I have all of the resources I would need. And I'm working on it. I'm working on it as hard as I can. Or at least I tell myself that. And everyone's helping me. And they're probably tired of helping me. I don't blame them. I've been asking for a lot. Even though there's only so much I can do per day, even I don't feel like I'm doing everything I could. Like, all these emotions swirling around, all these things, and it leaves me kind of paralyzed. My depression, my anxiety, my paranoia, it all starts going off at once. And as anybody who struggles with mental health understands, that's not a good thing. So it makes a task even harder. What do you do then? What do you do? Well, you try to motivate yourself. You have family and friends, or at least the ones you feel like you can trust and count on, and they push you and prod you, and eventually you get the ball rolling. But in the meantime, you still have to hang on. You still have to exist. You still have to feel good about yourself. Which is where hobbies come in. And like, oh boy, all the hobbies are fun, of course. And wouldn't you know, this so happens to be a hobby of mine. But of course, any chance you. Well, not chance, that's not the right word to use. Hold on.